It is springtime and it's time to put out the birdhouses in the Dollhouse Garden. These adorable birdhouses are made from easy downloadable printables. And don't forget, gotta feed the birdies. Hello, my crafty dolls. Welcome to my craft room. I am Grandma Kitty. I am so glad you're here. It is March, and that is a big deal for us Wisconsinites because it is almost spring. March, it still is kind of cool and muddy and brown, but hey, spring is just around the corner. And in fact, the forecast for next week says it's going to be 65 degrees. So I guarantee everyone is going to be in tank tops, shorts, and sandals next week. Guarantee it. Also, this is the time of year you need to put out your birdhouses in your yard so you don't miss out on those birds checking out a new home for the summer. And your dollhouse definitely needs some birdhouses. And I just put out a whole collection of garden printables on my Etsy shop. I have birdhouses, I have a farmer's market, I have old rusty buckets, I have crates, really cool stuff. I have signs for your garden, rustic stuff. I love old things in my garden. In fact, I call it the rusty garden look. And the rustier, the older, the better. That is what I like, and I definitely want that for my dollhouse. And if you're here because you purchased this on Etsy, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We do a lot of miniatures on this channel. I try to teach you some tips and tricks and do some fancy embellishments on some of your miniatures, try to upscale them. And if that is something you enjoy, please hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you back. All right, so I want to show you some of the materials you need for this project. Number one, you need to download this. And second, I really recommend using premium paper. You're going to get a nice vibrant print. So this is Hammermill paper. It's 28 pounds. It gives you a really crisp print, vibrant colors. Okay, you do need to use the right glue for this. You need to use glue that is specially made for paper. Otherwise, you're going to discolor your paper, wrinkle your paper, and you don't want that. So I really recommend the Grandmother Stover's glue. I love this stuff. I use it all the time. And I like it because it's kind of goopy and it's easier to handle and goop it on and make the paper stay. You can also use this glue stick from Elmer's. Now this is your kids' glue stick. This is specially glue for paper. You're going to find this over by the scrapbook section. Do not use tacky glue for this. You're going to discolor your paper. It's going to bubble and wrinkle, and we don't want that. I did a whole episode on what glues to use for your miniature project. So I'm going to link that into the description below if you want to check that out. So do not use tacky glue. You want to use glue that's especially for paper. Definitely need a really good utility knife. Make sure you change your blades regularly, especially when you start a new project. Go ahead and change your blade. You're gonna love it. We're also going to need some sticks. So we need some toothpicks. Those are going to be the perches for the birdhouse. And these are the posts. I have some old spindles I have laying around. Honestly, my dollhouse isn't done, so I have a lot of this stuff laying around. It's more fun to do miniatures and decorating than actually assembling everything. My house is not done. The roof isn't done. So anyway, that's another story. Sticks, these can be for the posts for the dollhouse, and some string. So if you want to hang them from a post or from a tree. And then you'll need a standard size hole punch. All right, those birdhouses need the house for the summer, so let's get started. Here is my printed sheet, birdhouses, and all I'm going to do is take my X-Acto knife, make sure you have a nice sharp knife, and my little metal ruler, and I am just going to cut around the image. So I'm going to cut everything out. Okay, I have my birdhouse all cut out, and the next thing I want to do is there are 3 little corners here that we need to snip. 1, 2, 3, and we're just going to snip those flaps to the birdhouse And that way we can fold over our flaps. There we go, just like that. This is the best time to go ahead and cut out the hole. So all I'm using is the standard size hole punch. And you're going to line it up with the white dot and cut out your hole. Looking good so far. So now all we're going to do is go around and fold the flaps. And you can see where everything lines up. I'm just going to fold those flaps. Start making a crease on the paper. And then the flaps on the roof, same way. And the flaps on the roof is what is going to hold on the roof. Okay, now once you've folded everything, now you want to reinforce those folds. And you're going to see your birdhouse take shape here. You can either use a tool to sharpen those edges or you just use your nails. It's a small little area. So this is the bottom, so the flaps are going to have to come up. That forms the bottom. And then you can see everything's just going to come wrapping around to form the box. Just like that. Now for the flaps on the roof, we're going to fold them in. And these flaps are going to help hold on the roof. All right, we're going to line everything up and then we're going to go ahead and glue on the bottom first. Now here you can choose what kind of glue you want to use. Sometimes when I'm working with the smaller boxes, I like to use the Grandmother Stover's glue. This stuff is great. It's not going to bubble your paper or wrinkle your paper. And it's kind of goopy, so you can see where it is. It's just nice. But if you don't have that, that's fine. You can take a glue stick. This is the Craft Bond glue stick, and you can use your little brush and do the same thing. And then you're going to fold up the bottom and you're going to wrap around the sides of the box to those flaps. And then just line everything up. Now when you get to the last flap, sometimes it's nice to have some tweezers. This flap is going to go tuck in and then glue to the back of the birdhouse. So you just want to pinch and maneuver until everything is lined up. Now all the other flaps, we're just going to leave those alone for now. So I'm going to let this dry before we continue. So nothing's going to fall apart when we start putting on the roof. Okay, now for the roof, what we're going to do, you can use your glue stick for this. This is a really nice, easy one. First, we're going to go ahead and make a crease horizontally down the center, horizontally. And then go ahead and fold that over and give it a nice crease. And then we are going to glue this together. Just run this right over your glue stick. And then go ahead and fold that together. Start in the center, and then work your way out. So we have a double roof there. And if there's any part that's not lined up, just go ahead and cut that off. And then all we're going to do is we're going to fold it in half vertically. So we go right down the middle, give that a good crease, and then there is the roof. There you go. Now the edge with the fold, that's going to go onto the front of the birdhouse. And the back has that rough edge. We don't want that, so we'll put that on the back so you can't see it. So I'll have the nice fold on the front. Now again, these roofs are interchangeable, so you can put whichever one on whatever birdhouse you want. Okay, I have my roofs all done. They're nice and dry. Now, one of them I want to maybe hang from a tree or from a pole. So what I'm going to do is I took a piece of string or thread and a needle. And I just did a double thread and then tied a knot at the end. And I'm going to start on the inside of the vintage roof. And I'm just going to go about 1/8 of an inch from the center in the middle. I'm going to go ahead and poke a hole through there. And I'm going to start at the bottom so I can hide the knot. And then again, about 1/8 of an inch from the center onto the other side. And so there, you just tie a knot. We got a little string there. So we can hang it from either the tree or a pole on the porch. Now with the side flaps here, I want to put some glue, and that is going to help hold the roof together. So I'm going to put a big glob of this glue. That's why I like this glue. It's just sticky and globby, and it's not going to ruin your paper. And I'm just going to go ahead and put this flap to the sides of the roof. I'm going to do that to the other side, and then I'm going to go ahead and let that dry. Our little house is all dry. So now I'm going to put the roof on. I'm going to put the vintage roof on here with the string. So I'm going to take my glue again and just go over those flaps on the roof. And again, I'm using that really goopy glue. It's my favorite. I can see where it is. I can glob a lot on without wrecking anything. And I know for sure it's going to be secure. Now you don't really need to put any on the roof. This is enough glue. Now again, you want to make sure you put it on the right way. You want the fold to be at the front. And we can read vintage onto the front. And I'm just going to go ahead and place it on top. Pinch it down. And there we go. Looks good. And underneath, because we doubled up the roof, we have a nice, you don't see any paper underneath. There you go. All right, here are all my little birdhouses. They're so cute. But they need a little perch. We need a little perch for the little birdie to sit on while he's checking out his new house. So you just take a toothpick and cut it to the size you want. You might even need to sand a little bit off those rough edges so it glues evenly onto the paper. And then we're going to use our tweezers. And I am just going to dip it in my glue. Just make sure it's straight, and then we're going to let that dry. So I'm going to make some accessories for the dollhouses. I'm going to make one on a pole, and then the other two, I have these dollhouse spindles. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one on a spindle, and I'm going to put this one in the garden, and then I cut one of the spindles down a little bit, and then this one I'm going to put onto the dollhouse like a little hook. So he's going to go on the house, and then I just cut it off, and then I use my little sand block to round off the edge really nice. But I want to paint all these before I glue them on, so all I'm going to be using is my antique medium. You don't have to use this. You can use paint any color you want. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint these before I glue them on. And of course, it helps to have your tweezers to help. Okay, I have the posts for my birdhouses painted up. I roughed them up with a little paint. Look like they look like old legs from a chair. So I'm going to put 2 paintbrushes down, and this is going to help support our posts while it dries. And the best thing to use is a glue gun. I usually don't like using glue guns, but honestly, this is the best way to do it. And again, the paintbrushes will help support. Okay, and to add some more detail, I just have some moss here, different kinds of moss. And I am just going to rip some of this. And I'm not even going to glue it. I am just going to stick it right on in there. You can use different kinds. And then that'll add a little birdie bedding in there. And you don't need a lot. And then I'm going to add maybe just a little bit of moss around the bottom of the birdhouse by the post. Just add a little bit. You can add as little or as much as you want. Okay, I just want to show you quickly how to make the little bird food box. And I cut everything out, and then you can see these are the flaps. The light colored paper here is the flaps. And all we're going to do is fold those and then fold the sides of the box. And you just want to crisp up all those folds. Again, taking my grandmother Stover's glue, my favorite. Now all we're going to do is we're just going to wrap this around, and we're going to glue the side together. So this flap to the other side. And again, we'll just add a lot of glue there. Again, the tweezers always help when you're dealing with small things like this. It is tedious, but that's why we love it. That's why we love doing miniatures. And now we are just going to let this dry. Because if you start trying to assemble the other side, it's just going to fall apart on you. So I'm just going to let that dry. Okay, once our little box is dried, we are going to glue the bottom shut. We're going to fold in those flaps and just give that a little generous glob of glue. And again, the tweezers really help. And I'm just going to pinch and smooth that closed. Now we are going to take a bowl of just rice, and we are going to fill this up, and this is going to add some weight to the box. So go ahead and add some generous glue to the flaps here, and then just close this shut. And the rice just adds stability to it, and it sounds like there's bird food in there. Okay, I'm going to show you 2 ways to fill your box. You can keep it open and fill it with some bird seed. And I thought, what is a good way to put bird seed in a box? So I went to my spice rack and I was looking at my spices, and wouldn't you know it, they kind of do look like bird food. I have steak salt here, some seasoning, and then I found this bagel seasoning. I don't know why I have this, but I do. And this makes the perfect bird seed. So I'm just going to pour it in a bowl and scoop it in. And I'm going to leave this open so we can see the bird food. So we definitely need a little bird feeder in our dollhouse. And we're going to use a little post and then a little teacup on a saucer. And that's going to be the base for our bird feeder. And all I did is I took a spindle and I painted it, aged it a little bit, and I put a little bit of moss on it. And I'm using a hot glue gun for this. And again, I don't like using the hot glue gun a lot, but what's nice about this is if you change your mind or if you make a mistake, it's really easy to take that glue off. It just peels right off. If you use tacky glue, you might struggle a little bit. So we're just going to start with the bottom and put the post on there. And of course, it dries super quick. You don't have to wait. And then we'll just put the teacup right on the saucer. I have a couple of these in my garden, and they are so cute. They're good for the bees. Water collects in here, and the bees like to come and drink. So it's just so cute. I love old junk things in the garden. I can't get enough of it. And there is our bird feeder. And then I'm just going to scoop up some of. There you go. That is very tempting for any bird, I would think. All right, I can't wait to see what this looks like in the garden. All right, let's go see what our birdhouses look like in the Dollhouse Garden. I cannot wait to see what they look like. All right, my crafty dolls, that is it for me today. I hope you had fun with this project, and I hope I inspired you to make a little garden for your dollhouse. Don't forget about the outside. And don't forget to put out your own birdhouses in your own yard, because you don't want to miss out on your birds looking for a new summer home. I always love watching the birds go from house to house. I can imagine the little wifey bird saying, this one's too small, the bathroom's too small in this one. That's what I imagine. So go ahead and leave me a comment and let me know how you did with this project. If you don't know what to say, just leave me a yellow heart, and I'll see you next time. Bye.